is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw in New York and Roger Mudd in Washington.
Good evening. Never before has the federal government had a budget deficit larger than $66.4 billion, 1976. But today, the Congressional Budget Office, which is a bipartisan professional staff operation, predicted a deficit as high as $160 billion. Here's Irving R. Levine.
The head of the Congressional Budget Office told senators that the recession and high interest rates are to blame for the projected bigger deficits.
Adding the current economic picture to the old numbers does leave you with deficits in the range of 140 to 160 billion over the next 3 years.
The reaction of the senators: Johnston, Democrat of Louisiana, shocking; Andrews, Republican of North Dakota, surprising; Regal, Democrat of Michigan.
So I'm very distressed at those numbers, and as a matter of fact, my own judgment is, if anything, they're optimistic.
The deficit projections have been ballooning. February, the administration predicted a 1983 deficit of $92 billion. April, raised to $102 billion. Last Sunday, Treasury Secretary Regan forecast $110 to $114 billion. Today's Rivlin estimate for 1983, $141 to $151 billion. The reasons: high interest rates have bankrupted many businesses and put people out of work, reducing tax revenues to the Treasury, as did the big tax cut bill President Reagan signed last summer. To reduce the deficits, Rivlin recommended new taxes and more spending cuts. The things that Rivlin suggested cutting, in particular Social Security benefits, are the very things that neither the administration nor Congress has any intention of touching in an election year. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, Washington.
The administration, whose leader, the president, once called the Budget Office predictions a phony, was slightly more charitable today. Press Secretary Larry Speake said the office was unduly pessimistic. The administration's estimate on the deficit, originally due July 15th, is now promised for the end of this week. Tom?
What everyone wants to know, of course, is what effect these deficits will have on interest rates, which are the talk of this troubled economy. Interest rates are like an ancient plague these days. They move through a community silently, destroying some businesses and terrifying others. They are reshaping the American scene. Fred Briggs in Medina, Ohio.
Although one of Ohio's oldest towns, Medina is basically a bedroom community now, 20 minutes from Akron, 30 minutes from Cleveland. Growth and the housing that accompanies it has been Medina's major industry for 12 years. Now, all of a sudden, housing starts are down 75%. Interest rates. Developers who have put in water and sewer lines are having trouble finding buyers. Interest rates. Realtors have trouble selling older homes. Medina has 40% fewer realtors than it had 5 years ago.
I don't think anybody could take another 2 or 3 years of what we had.
Downtown, there are some stores more than 100 years old. The Ziegler family has owned this department store 4 generations. Interest rates and recession have brought some caution about inventory, keeping it smaller, taking fewer gambles on what will sell. But the Zieglers have seen bad times before.
We've made it through the last 2 years. We were here during the last depression, so we certainly expect to still be here, but there's no question that a number of the retailers who are relatively new in particular and good acquaintances of ours aren't going to be around in the next few years.
Some of the older retailers are feeling squeezed too. Not many, but finding available space on the town square would have been unthinkable 4 years ago. The old Phoenix Bank, 124 years old, is saying no to a lot of would-be borrowers now, even at today's interest rates.
In order to lend money, we need new deposits, and when the area has become a bit stagnated because of a lack of growth, the new deposits are harder and harder to get.
There is still a good life here, good for those who got here when mortgages were reasonable, when it didn't take a $50,000 income to buy an $80,000 home. The good old days, some call them, the good old days of 1978. Fred Briggs, NBC News, Medina, Ohio.
And today's profit scorecard for some well-known companies in the second quarter. Ford Motor Company, nearly $205 million in profits. Mobil, Gulf, Shell, and Phillips, all oil companies, reported profits, but they were considerably less than they were a year ago.
Kodak announces a whole new way to make pictures. Introducing disc photography. The beginning is this, a unique film disc. A disc so thin there's room in the camera for an array of precision electronics. The new Kodak disc camera. Press a single button, and the new Kodak disc camera does it all. It reads the light. It knows when to flash, and can flash again in 1 1/3 seconds. It even advances the film disc automatically, so you can capture those wonderful moments you may have been missing. The new Kodak disc camera.
Picture a brand new world. Picture a brand new world.
No A1 steak sauce for my hamburger? Miss, some A1, please. Imagine a great place like this without A1 on the table.
Yeah.
Nothing like it on hamburgers.
You bet.
After all, what is hamburger? Chopped ham, it's chopped steak. What's better on steak than A1? A1 makes hamburgers taste like steak burgers.
I know, that's why I always have it at home.
So, why settle for less when you eat out?
You're right. Miss, some A1, please.
A1 makes hamburgers taste like steak burgers.
Ask for A1 at your favorite restaurant.
In the Middle East today, Israeli Prime Minister Begin was quoted as saying that he would never negotiate with PLO leader Arafat. At the same time, Israel hit residential areas of West Beirut hard again today. As for Arafat, he turned down Sudan's offer of a sanctuary, and he talked of what he expects of the United States. James Compton now in Beirut.
Arafat says America has a choice: continue its unconditional support of Israel or recognize that Palestinians have rights as well.
To support this aggression, this attack, this inhumanitarian invasion, barbarian invasion, or to go with a peaceful solution to get a settlement in this area.
The PLO still declines to clarify the document signed by Arafat for a group of American congressmen on Sunday. But the organization continues to hint that recognition of Israel could follow if only America would endorse Palestinian rights. Even as Arafat left this meeting, the heaviest Israeli air raid yet began just blocks away. This apartment house where dozens of Palestinian refugee families lived took a direct hit. There were frantic efforts to escape. The apartment house is at least a mile from any military concentration. It is the deepest strike yet into civilian neighborhoods of Beirut. The wounded went to a nearby hospital. Many were Lebanese civilians. The bomb strike had been so close to the hospital itself that the staff pleaded for immunity from airstrikes.
And to tell the Israelis to respect the hospital, to respect the injured people, you see, and not shoot the hospital.
In the next room, a Palestinian woman, Sumlay al-Fadar, with her 2 children. Their house was destroyed early in the war. Yesterday, the mother and son suffered phosphorus burns in the Israeli bombing raid. The raids continued throughout the day. Palestinian forces replied with a Soviet SAM-7 missile, but Palestinian defenses were no match for the sophisticated American aircraft. James Compton, NBC News, West Beirut.
Palestinian and Syrian rockets were then fired in retaliation at the port of Juni, 12 miles north of Beirut. And at least one of those rockets hit a Red Cross ship in the harbor at the time. The West German Red Cross, which owns the ship, said one of its crew members was killed. It called the incident a deliberate attack. Others in Juni said they believe that the missiles were aimed at Lebanese Christian forces, which are nearby. One of the most controversial weapons used in this war is the American-made cluster bomb, which contains hundreds of pieces of shrapnel. Last week, President Reagan suspended delivery of cluster bombs to Israel. Today, he extended that suspension indefinitely. The decision is not tied to any findings of misuse by the Israelis, according to the administration. Roger?
The administration today certified that El Salvador was making progress on human rights and a land reform program and was therefore eligible to continue receiving U.S. military support. However, several Democrats from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, including Dodd of Connecticut, are concerned about new allegations of torture and call today's certification a sham. We have a report tonight on the Salvadorian land reform program from Bonnie Anderson.
In the past few weeks, more than 5,000 Salvadoran peasants have gone to highly publicized ceremonies like this one to receive provisional titles to land. And for the first time in the 2-year-old agrarian reform program, the government has given full land ownership to 251 other farmers, known as campesinos. This last-minute acceleration of the program has been engineered by the Army. Almost $100 million of U.S. military aid hinges in part on the agrarian reform program. U.S. Ambassador to El Salvador, Dean Hinton, says the results speak for themselves.
There are over 30,000 individual campesinos who now have provisional title to their own land. And this done during a period of intense civil strife. It is a remarkable achievement.
But there have been problems. After the March election, the new right-wing Constituent Assembly cut back part of the program for a year. And in the confusion, former landowners evicted more than 4,000 peasants. The entire program stopped temporarily. Adolfo Rey Prendes, whose centrist Christian Democrat Party initiated the reforms, says that is precisely what the right-wing parties intended.
What they are really trying to do is to destroy, to reverse the program.
Publicly, however, right-wing leaders say they are only trying to improve the reforms and support the Army's efforts to reinstate evicted peasants. For El Salvador's government, the support of the peasants is as important as U.S. aid. Although poor crop workers like Maximo Pineda have received provisional land titles, there is no guarantee their land ownership will last. If it doesn't, the leftists will become the opportunists. Bonnie Anderson, NBC News, El Salvador.
And the Reagan administration is expected to announce tomorrow a 1-year extension of the current grain sale deal with the Soviet Union. The United States has a huge grain surplus now, and the president's political advisors have told him that a refusal to sell grain would leave congressional candidates in the Farm Belt vulnerable.
Take Sears back to school and get A+ values on special purchase casual jeans and knit shirts for kids. Easy Care jeans only $4.97 and $6.97. Baseball style shirts $2.47 and $3.47. Chalk up 25% savings on Mrs. Stretch jeans just $13.99 and Pretty Plaid shirts for $9.99. Sears tough denim jeans for men score high in fashion or basic styles for $9.97 a pair. Plus short and long sleeve shirts only $6 and $6.50. For fashion buys you can count on Sears.
I've always been a fighter, and there's no point in letting something like a headache get in your way even for a few hours. Not when you can do something about it. What many people do is take Anacin. I met with Anacin's research scientists. They told me how, very simply, Anacin helps block pain, just stops it, so you can forget about it. Next time a headache interferes with your day, fight back with Anacin.
The Uniroyal Tiger Paw gives you a jump on that tough, twisting road in any weather. The Tiger Paw's tough, all-weather tread helps you grab that rainy, slippery road and keeps right on purring. To tame that road, it takes careful driving and the steel-belted Tiger Paw. Let it loose on your car. Uniroyal, we give you more to go on.
The congressional inquiry into alleged illegal sex and drug use got a chief counsel today, Joseph Califano, the Washington lawyer and former HEW secretary. He and his law partners each will be paid about $100 an hour, which is about half their going rate. Lisa Myers reports.
By bringing in a lawyer of Califano's stature, the committee sought to reassure the public that the investigation will not be a whitewash.
We wanted a counsel whose independence could not be questioned.
But at least equally important was the implicit reassurance for members of Congress that there will be no witch hunt. Califano is more politician than prosecutor, is on a first-name basis with some he may be investigating, and is an old friend of House Speaker Thomas O'Neill.
I am doing this most reluctantly after many conversations with Chairman Stokes and Mr. Spence, and indeed with the leaders on both sides of the aisle. I don't regard it as a pleasant task. I regard it as a public duty.
Califano said he was promised unlimited resources and authority to pursue the investigation wherever it may lead. Committee investigators believe that as far as drugs are concerned, it may lead a few steps down the hall to the House Democratic cloakroom. 2 senior cloakroom employees who work just off the House floor have been questioned about dealing cocaine, marijuana, and hashish allegedly distributed in government envelopes delivered by pages to certain congressional offices. Califano met briefly this afternoon with committee investigators who already have questioned 25 people. But thus far, the committee has more anonymous tipsters than credible witnesses, said one investigator. There's some real messy garbage out there, but whether we can prove it is another matter. Lisa Myers, NBC News, at the Capitol.
President Reagan will hold a press conference tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, which NBC will carry live. On Monday, he's speaking to the corn growers out in Des Moines, and on the following day, he goes to the Knights of Columbus in Hartford. This will give him the chance to endorse one of the administration's least favorite Republicans, Senator Lowell Weicker of Connecticut. Today, Weicker's GOP opponent, Prescott Bush, the brother of the vice president, formally withdrew from the race in the interest of what he said was party unity. Tom?
In Los Angeles today, authorities said they may file criminal charges in the movie stunt accident that killed actor Vic Morrow and 2 children, ages 6 and 7. They were hit by a helicopter that crashed during a battle scene. More now from Dennis Murphy.
6-year-old Rennie Chen was buried today, a kindergartner from Pasadena. She was killed last Friday in a helicopter accident during the making of a movie. John Landis, the director of the film, placed flowers on her coffin. Another actor, 7-year-old Micah Lay, who died in the same accident, was buried a few hours later. While friends mourned, investigators tried to find out what happened.
How 2 children could be working at 2:30 in the morning just blows my mind.
The California Department of Labor wants to know why neither child had a work permit.
Once all the facts are in, then we may be going criminally, either misdemeanor with the possibility of a felony charge.
The man in the hot seat is film director Landis, known in Hollywood as an action film specialist. He directed The Blues Brothers, a stuntman spectacular. On Friday, the last scene of The Twilight Zone, a Vietnam story, went terribly wrong. Explosive charges on the ground knocked the helicopter from the sky. And the film crew that was aboard the chopper is asking the movie industry to control the use of dangerous stunts.
If this doesn't happen, then I think we should withhold our services until this is put into place. I don't see how we can continue on this way. This must stop.
So far, no one has explained why the children were hired without permits or why the helicopter that fell on them flew so close to the ground. These are questions which may be answered in criminal court. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Grandma, this back to nature stuff is work. I'm gonna go get some orange juice.
Orange juice. One thing I don't grow myself. Don't have to. Those Florida orange growers do it for me. Orange juice. Can't beat natural things with great taste.
Grandma, want some orange juice?
Thought you'd never ask.
100% pure orange juice from Florida. It isn't just for breakfast anymore.
People who lose traveler's checks often lose other things, so they make a few calls.
Hello? I need to cancel my credit card. Hello? I gotta change my travel plans. Hello, I want to send a mailgram.
But one traveler's check.
Hello, American Express.
Has 5 special services to help do all that with one call. So you spend less time straightening out your vacation.
Thanks.
And more time enjoying it.
American Express traveler's checks. They're worth asking for by name.
Who needs Dr. Scholl's air pillow insoles?
You do if you work with your feet.
I walk all day long. Without Dr. Scholl's air pillow insoles, I quit.
I hardly take a step, but I couldn't do this without my air pillow insoles.
Thin enough to slip comfortably into your shoes. And heavenly soft to cushion every step all day long. Who needs Dr. Scholl's air pillow insoles?
Just about anybody who hasn't got them.
Government programs to aid the medically destitute are usually set up for the best of reasons, and their rules are generally designed to be fair. Sometimes people get caught in red tape when their case does not fit the rules. It happened to an elderly Charlottesville, Virginia woman who depends on Medicaid. Robert Hager reports.
Mattie Dudley is 67, lives alone, has been in a wheelchair since childhood, and for as long as most can remember has sold newspapers on the street here. Now, the state of Virginia has notified Miss Dudley that because she has assets of just over $1,500, her Medicaid benefits are to be cut off this Sunday. The assets consist mostly of a burial certificate, now worth $1,200, she bought from a funeral home 3 years ago for $1,000. It guarantees that her funeral expenses will be paid. The rules say she must cash that in, but she won't.
Because if I die tonight, or right here where I'm sitting at, I'll be put away.
Robert Cox, whose local social services department administers Medicaid here, says rules are rules.
It's our job to administer very strictly and impartially, despite the nature of the individual situation, which often is quite difficult.
But Miss Dudley vows she's going to fight.
And I'm going to argue with them until I get my satisfaction at it. If I have to go to Richmond or Washington or where it takes it, I'm going.
Miss Dudley says she's been promised one more session with Virginia state officials before the Sunday cutoff deadline. Robert Hager, NBC News, Charlottesville, Virginia.
In Wales today, one of the 10 victims of last week's IRA bombings in London was laid to rest, and Jim Bitterman was there.
In the Welsh village of Tony Ravai, a week almost to the minute after the IRA bombing, the body of Lance Corporal Jeffrey Young was carried home. His fellow cavalrymen from the elite Blues and Royals Regiment, some of whom were riding in his side last Tuesday and were themselves injured in the blast, bore his coffin to the parish church. Inside, his young widow grieved. His colonel, Andrew Parker Bowles, a friend of Prince Charles and commanding officer of the Queen's Household Cavalry, led the regiment in mourning. The parish vicar, aware of the stature of those who gathered, considered making some political remarks, but decided instead it wasn't the place of a village preacher. In the tough Welsh coal country where Corporal Young grew up and which he left behind, staying off unemployment is an achievement. Joining the army is admired. And rising, as Corporal Young did, to the ranks of the prestigious cavalry regiment, nothing short of success. Hundreds of people came to the cemetery, many who knew the young corporal, some no doubt simply attracted by the ceremony so rarely accorded anyone from around here. Why, his widow cried, did it have to be Jeff? And on the very day Lance Corporal Jeffrey Young should have turned 20 years old, he was buried in the rocky Welsh ground. Jim Bitterman, NBC News, Tony Ravai, Wales.
When was the last time you had a good square meal?
Oh, I had a chili dog last night. Does a burger count?
Nope. I mean a good square meal. A real meat and potatoes dinner with nourishing vegetables, even dessert.
How about
a Swanson frozen dinner? 4 wholesome foods just for you. And nothing makes you feel as good as a good square meal.
Swanson's cooking.
A good square meal.
Just for you.
If you could repaint the world, you might decide to change a few things, but you'd still want to use a quality paint like the Kmart Performer, so your good taste would show. It's manufactured for Kmart by Dutch Boy, so you know it's good. The Performer is a quality exterior paint with 9-year durability. Keep it in mind when it's time to paint your own little corner of the world. The Performer, quality by Dutch Boy, the price by Kmart.
America's driving machine takes on the world car. Dodge Omni Miser versus Ford Escort. Both have front-wheel drive, but Miser seats 5 to Escort's 4. From 0 to 50 getting you to the highway, Miser is faster. On the highway, Miser gets the best gasoline mileage of any American car. And now Dodge beats Escort with a 5-year or 50,000-mile plan for engine and powertrain protection, out-of-body rust-through protection, and free scheduled maintenance. Dodge Omni Miser, America's driving machine.
On many college campuses this summer, there's a new class of seniors. These are seniors more in age than in undergraduate standing. Grown-ups who decided a week on campus is a splendid way to spend a vacation. And the colleges are grateful. They need the money. Here's Edwin Newman.
Far above Cayuga's waters, a lot is happening this summer.
It's got a rusty cap, sort of like a chipping sparrow has.
Some people are getting up at 5 every morning to go bird watching.
Oh, you have a diving beetle. Beautiful.
Others are dipping their strainers into ponds to come up with dragonfly nymphs and diving beetles.
Inflation, again, was down just as here.
And still others are probing the mysteries of economics. There are no freshmen or sophomores here. Most students are middle-aged or older.
In other words, I'm going to think of A and B as the input wires.
They are part of Cornell's adult university. 1,200 people attend for a week for what they call a vacation education. No credits, just the fun of it. And spending 6 hours a day in class, plus hours at the computer or in the field, is their idea of fun.
It's a change of pace. It stretches the mind, and I find it very refreshing.
I don't have to think about cooking for a week. The children are off my hands and having fun at the same time. And I'm free to study and pursue other interests.
Children who come with their parents spend all day at camp.
Okay, lie down. And here are your animals.
At night, even the youngest are tucked in by counselors.
Got the St. Louis blues.
So parents are free again. Not quite as free as when they were students, but free to concert hop or exchange ideas over coffee with well-known scholars like economist Alfred Kahn, who was President Carter's inflation advisor. Kahn enjoys these older students.
First of all, they're generally better informed, they have more experience, and they come here kind of all fired up. It's just an exhilarating experience to teach them.
Learning Mozart motets or the other things taught here may not be most people's idea of a vacation, but it has its converts.
I'm sure when I go home I'll never walk down a sidewalk or through the woods again with quite the same pair of eyes.
It's a whole different world. It really is something that I haven't seen before and explored, and that's what makes it exciting.
Edwin Newman, NBC News.
When I went to summer school, it was a case of had to. I had to because I didn't do so well during the regular term. That's Nightly News for this Tuesday night. I'm Tom Brokaw in New York.
I'm Roger Mudd in Washington, class of 1950. Good night from all of us at NBC News.
Tomorrow morning on Today, did Yasser Arafat make fools of some visiting American congressman? Jane Pauley talks with one of those congressmen. Also, Bryant Gumbel finds out why those friendly skies will be more expensive to fly in. Tuesday.
Relax and have a good time.
With Father Murphy. Then,
everything's going to be just fine.
A gold shipment's easy prey for robbers, but Maverick's in complete control. And McClane lays his job on the line when he busts a crooked businessman.
I can get you a badge for this.
McClane's Law, now on Tuesday, right after Father Murphy and Maverick on NBC.
Coming up in just a minute on the scene at 6, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals rejects Nashville's school desegregation plan. State House Majority Leader Tommy Burnett is sentenced to jail on income tax charges. A sting operation operating out of a Charlotte Avenue garage nets 235 indictments. And State Insurance Commissioner John Neff talks about the $4 million lawsuit filed against him and some Nashville businessmen.
These stories and more news coming up on the scene at 6.
Find out first on 4 with Decision 82, Thursday, August 5th, beginning with the scene at 6. For the fastest election results possible, turn to Dan Miller and the Channel 4 election team. Look for expert political analysis, exclusive statewide polls,